Coach Tony, Wrestling Podium Performance, and we are back with part 2 of the series on creatine. In part 1, I covered the who, what, when, where, why, and how of creatine, a primer of it. If you haven't seen that already, I'm going to link it up here right now so that you can go back and watch it to refresh your memory or watch it for the first time. Now, in today, I'm going to be talking about the supplement side. I'm going to be dispelling some of the myths. I'm going to be diving into the dosages, what type of creatine is actually the best to it, and the side effects and benefits of creatine. So if you could take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and if you've got any questions, leave a comment below. So these days we're seeing creatine pop up in all kinds of places. Just the other day I saw an ad on TV for it in skin cream. I've seen it in different products. I've seen it in commercials for hair products. But all I'm going to be covering is what we take in. Not putting it on our surface, but what we actually ingest, as well as going to be diving into the supplement side, really deep on that. As well, you might not know what type of creatine to take. There's several of them on the market right now. You've got creatine monohydrate, creatine ethyl ester, crealkyl creatine, creatine HCl, which is hydrochloride. We've got creatine carbonate, we've got creatine gluconate. And I'm sure by the time I even post this video, there's going to be another creatine out on the market because they're popping up. So I'll dive a little bit later into which one is actually the best. But first, what we really need to go into is what are the benefits and side effects of taking creatine? The first one that a lot of people notice is, okay, they add a little bit of water weight. But why is that? Creatine is very hydrophilic, meaning that it has an affinity. It likes water a lot. So every 1 gram of creatine that you take into your body, it pulls in with it 15 to 50 milliliters. That's 15 to 50 grams of water that is taken in with it. So if you take in 5 grams, well, that's going to be 75 to 250 grams of water that goes with it. That's why you end up with a little bit of water weight. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because what that's going to mean is if you're bringing in more water, you're going to have better hydration levels. That creatine is going to bring that into the cells with it, which means that as it's being pulled into the cells, you're hydrating the cells. And you're making it so that your muscle tissue is now saturated with both creatine, and now that it's hydrated, it's going to perform better. And then that leads us into the second big benefit and side effect is an improvement in performance. But what exactly performance is it improving? Since how, as I mentioned in the first video, we have those energy systems. Creatine is associated with the most powerful explosive movements. So that means it's going to help improve sprint performance, whether that's 10 yards, 10 meters, an explosive jump, throwing a shot put, or running 100, 200, 400 meters. It's going to help you be able to lift heavier, maybe get an extra rep. And on top of that, it's also going to help improve the recovery of the muscles. If you're properly saturated with creatine in your system, it's going to have a better turnover. You're not going to lose as much because you have a store of it there. Just think, it's like a gas tank. If you step on the gas really hard in your car, you're going to use more fuel. But if you've got a full tank, you can step on the gas for a little bit longer and redline the car a little bit longer. The same principle kind of applies here. You're able to do it again. Now, I'm not saying you're going to be able to do your 1 rep max for 10. What I'm saying is a couple minutes later, you might be able to get another set with your 1 rep max. And then you might be able to do another set with it, which means over time, you're going to have bigger and bigger compounded effects of a performance improvement. And nowadays, there's actually more and more mounting evidence that keeps coming out that creatine actually helps improve cognitive performance, especially in those over 60 years old. It's showing improvements in short-term memory. It's showing improvements in maintaining focus for longer. And it's shown to have some neuroprotective benefits. So that means that, okay, as we age, we start to lose our wits a little bit. We've all seen the signs of it as people get into their 80s and 90s. They start to kind of lose it in a way. Well, if there's an improvement in cognitive performance and it's neuroprotective, that might mean that the elderly population is going to benefit a whole lot from a little bit of added creatine to their diets. So just think about the benefit. Grandma and grandpa, all of a sudden, They ain't losing it as much. They're able to stay with it a little bit longer. You're no longer like, oh, that's a funny story, Grandma. Now it's, hey, Grandma's still got it. Grandma's sharp as a pistol at 100 years old. That's the type of benefits we might end up seeing from this. Now, the research still has to keep on looking into it more and more. And one of the things that's actually been coming out, this comes from the Cleveland Clinic, that creatine has actually been shown now to improve or increase anabolic hormones. That's a little bit of testosterone, growth hormone, IGF-1. So if that's also happening, we're all going to benefit from that, especially those who go to the gym, lifting weights, those who just want to have their testosterone and whatnot last a little bit longer through life without needing therapy modalities for that. So there's mounting evidence on that side, but the research is still needing to become more conclusive. It's promising, but we still need more data on that. We can't just go off of a single source. We still need more evidence on that side of things. See, like these are some of the amazing added benefits. We're already improving physical performance, anaerobic, alactic performance. We're getting so that we can perform at a high level in sport for a little bit longer, a little bit better. Think about it, if you can improve your 100 even a little bit, or your 40-yard dash, even that little extra, that's gonna help you. If you're able to run your hard routes in football, an extra rep, either in practice or in a game, and you're able to break down your opponent, that's 6 points on the board potentially. That's a little extra money in your pocket, whether you're a collegiate or a professional. And that then, if we're improving our cognitive performance as we age, hey, that's great. But what is the downside? I've mentioned, okay, a little bit of water weight. But some people also experience some digestive distress and even what I call the Hershey squirts, diarrhea. The cause of that a lot of times is that they take a very large bolus dose on an empty stomach, and their body, when it's going to absorb it, it's not really all that efficient, so then they get a little bit of that kind of like lurching feeling in their gut. It's not lurching to make them want to vomit, it's kind of like just a little discomfort as they're going, and then when they go to the bathroom, it's an express trip out. How can we mitigate this? Take your creatine post-workout in a post-workout shake. That way you're slowing the transit time, and when you slow the transit time, you're able to absorb it a little bit better. All right, so what I end up doing is I divide creatine kind of into two categories. Creatine monohydrate, everything else. Why do I do it this way? Well, we go with what is the most commonly used and researched one, which is creatine monohydrate, and then all the exotic name stuff where they got these exotic names at the end, carbonate, gluconate, yada, 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 as I mentioned before. But what is the real difference? Well, all of these ones, when compared to creatine monohydrate, they are absorbed faster. You need less of it. Is that true? And that it's more beneficial to you. You even have some of them, like in the past, Purple K, which was Crealkyl creatine, claimed that it was the king of creatine. If you actually take a look at the molecular compound of them, creatine monohydrate is just creatine plus a single water molecule, and all the other ones, instead of that single water molecule, that exotic name that's added on is in place of that water molecule. So it's creatine, HCl, creatine, carbonate, creatine, ethyl ester. That just kind of replaces the water molecule, just for simplicity's sake. One of the biggest issues with all of these ones as well, they cost per serving 2 to 8 times what creatine monohydrate does, but they don't give you anything really added beneficial, except they empty out your pocket a little bit faster. That's really the only added benefit. It's beneficial to them. Yes, they're more expensive to make, but there's no added benefit to you, the consumer, the trainee, the athlete. I'm all about bang for your buck, especially when it comes to supplements. What's value that's going to work? Creatine monohydrate is researched over and over. It's researched almost more than protein itself and has a massive body of evidence behind it. Head over to PubMed, you're going to see 1,000 articles showing the benefits of creatine monohydrate. Whereas the other ones, the research is kind of shifty, and a lot of those companies sponsored a single study to back up their claims, but it doesn't even fully back it up. So now, what is the best time to take your creatine? As I said yesterday when it came to the when, post-workout is the best time to take it because you've depleted your natural stores, so your body's screaming for the added nutrients. On training days, mix it with your post-workout shake, On non-training days, take it whenever. You can have it in a glass of water, you can mix it with any beverage basically, and then consume it. Now, a little note on that is, if you're mixing it with water or some other beverages, it might have a little bit of a gritty texture to it. One of two things will happen. You either get over it or you end up just choking it down, which is why just mixing it with some water and choking it down real quick is the easiest way to go on non-training days if you're not having a protein shake. If you're having a protein shake on a non-training day, mix it in right there. Boom, 2 birds, 1 stone, simplicity. What about dosing? How much do I need? I say an absolute minimum of 5 grams per day for everybody. And for you vegans and vegetarians out there, you need to double this. Why? As I mentioned in the previous video, meat is the only other way that you get creatine from your natural diet. If you're vegan or vegetarian, you don't get any of that, which means you need more just to be at the same level as somebody who eats meat. It takes 1 kilogram, 1,000 grams, 2.2 pounds of meat to get 5 grams of creatine naturally. So if you're not getting that from meat, you need to get it from a supplement. The great thing is, the supplements are very, very cheap for this specific supplement. And I would also even argue, the older population might need more. They might need that 10 grams regardless, because of that benefit I just mentioned a couple minutes ago. The neuroprotectiveness, the cognitive function improvements. We all want to keep our wits about us longer and longer. This might be one of those weird little biohacks that benefit you for a long time. And remember, you don't need to do the loading phase, which I'm going to mention right now. Conventional wisdom has always been in the past, you need to do a loading phase. You need to do a week where you're taking like 20, 25, 30 grams of creatine every day. But mounting evidence shows you don't actually need to have a loading phase. Now, can it help? Maybe. Might it be easy just for you to kind of get into it? Yes. And then on the other side, it's been conventionally thought after 8 to 12 weeks, you need to cycle off using creatine. You don't. It's something you can keep taking, just like protein, just like multivitamin, just like electrolytes. It's something that you can take all the time, and it's not going to have any detriment. Now, yes, if you just hop off taking creatine, you might notice a little drop in some of your workout performance. You might not have quite as much workout endurance at the high end of your training levels, but you will adapt to that, just like we always keep adapting. And the reason why I say 10 grams might be more beneficial for everybody is, one, the physical performance, but also a little bit of the cognitive performance. Like today, we live in a much more intellectually taxing society than we did 50 and 100 years ago, where it was more physically taxing. So if our brain is the second place that uses it, maybe adding a little bit of extra creatine from 5 up to 10 grams is going to help you out a little bit more. The only way to tell for you, the individual, give it a try. What's the worst that happens? One thing to also keep in mind when it comes to the dosing, you can break it up into 2 doses in a day. That might be the ideal way to do it, because it's shown that 1 to 2 hours after consumption, blood plasma levels are at their highest, and the clearance half-life in blood plasma before it's uptaken into the tissue, like when I say tissue, muscle tissue, brain, it's about 3 hours before it's at the halfway amount, and then every 3 hours it cuts in half. So by taking 2 bolus doses of 5 grams or larger, if you're a larger individual, throughout the day might be better. But when we're being practical, taking a single dose of 10 grams in the day might be all that you can actually do, because that's what's practical. And then something else that's been proven to improve just the uptake is mixing or taking creatine with carbohydrates and protein, for a couple reasons. One, it helps to uptake it. There's a synergist effect that happens there. But also think about when you eat. If you drink water, it goes through you pretty quick. So protein shake's still going to go through you pretty quick, but because you got the protein and carbs in there with it, the transit time is going to be a little bit slower. Just like if you eat a regular meal, it's about 24 to 36 hours before it passes all the way through. So if you factor that in, okay, you have your shake, it's going to be absorbed a little bit slower than if it's just straight water with creatine, which allows you to then have a little bit better uptake, and that might help to completely get rid of any intestinal distress you have that people get when they have 5, 10 gram bolus doses. Now, specific populations as well that might need to take a little bit more or have multiple doses in a day. If you're an athlete that trains multiple times a day, like you've got weights in the morning or in the evening, and you've got a track session or you've got a technical session, well, each of those sessions is going to deplete some of your stores. You're going to need to recover from each session. So by having a post-workout shake after each session, it's going to be beneficial to you. It's going to help you recover. It's going to give you nutrients. It's going to allow you and fuel you for that next workout. And one population that actually would need to kind of cycle off having creatine is if you're in a weight cutting situation. You need to cut weight in order to make a weight class. So something you do is, okay, when you're getting into that last phase of like the water cut and everything, you cut creatine out, and then after you've weighed in, you have like 10 gram bolus dose of it with electrolytes, protein, and carbs, all mixed in a shake. As soon as you're off the scale, you start consuming that to bring your saturation levels back up. You bring in the hydration coming back up, and the creatine plus the carbs are going to pull a lot of that water, as well as the electrolytes, right into your muscle tissue to help refuel them so that you're more energized and you're able to perform, whether it's that night or the next night in your weight sport, whether that's a combat sport where you got to be hitting the head and hit the other person in the head, or you're in wrestling, or you're in another weight cutting situation. Even bodybuilding, for example, it might be beneficial there. Now, what kind of forms does creatine come in? Creatine monohydrate, for the most part, comes in a powder form, but these days it's starting to come in these gummies. Now, something to keep in mind, as YouTuber James Smith has exposed, is a lot of these companies that are putting out the gummies, they claim there's 5 grams or 3 grams per serving when there's not even a gram in the serving. It's non-detectable in a lot of cases. So you got to be careful with that. Make sure you're getting it from a reputable place, or a place where you can actually get the assays, the actual lab analysis, to see what it actually has. Does it have what it claims to have in there? Because a lot of these companies, it's a bit of the Wild West out there. So getting it from a reputable brand will help a lot. But yeah, this basically covers our primer, our dive into creatine. The first part was answering the 5 W's and how. This one, diving into the supplements and what you really need to look for in the supplements. You don't need those exotic names. All you really need when you're taking creatine, just stick to creatine monohydrate. It is the king of creatine. It's going to save you money, and it's going to actually have the research backing it up. If you like what I put out in this video, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and if you got any added questions, leave a comment below. Coach Tony, Wrestling Podium Performance. Embrace your potential.